Hey guys, so today's question comes from, well, honestly, I don't know how to pronounce your name. It's a bunch of Russian symbols, but they got a question about dealing with cravings. So here's what they say. I'm trying to quit porn. I've been working on it for a while now, and I put in serious thought and effort into it. I've tried techniques from ACT therapy, diffusion, acceptance, allowing urges to pass, but honestly, they just don't seem to work when the moment hits. And even if they do work, they only work temporarily for me, and the urge eventually just takes over. I can resist urges for even days or weeks, but eventually they are always just there, and finally, sometimes I just give up. Now, there's more to this, but I want to respond to this part first, okay? So when you're dealing with cravings, the most important thing to know is that there is like two kind of like aspects of a craving. First, there's just like the raw chemical craving. This is like the result of your brain being, conditioned through porn. Like this is just like a chemical sort of withdrawal where you're just looking for that hit of pleasure. All right. It's like the same kind of thing that would happen if you were hooked on drugs. All right. Like it's like there's just a withdrawal that gets triggered, and then your brain just wants that hit that it expects. Like from what I understand of the neuroscience, it's like this buildup of delta phos B along your neural pathways or something. And if you go long enough without scratching that itch using the drug, then that delta phos B breaks down, and your brain no longer just like craves and pulses and asks for its fix. Okay, so with the raw chemical side of a craving, the answer is to just let it pass, right? Like go through the rebooting period, go through this period where your brain just gets used to not doing it. It's uncomfortable, but these cravings, they only come temporarily. Usually a craving, like a raw chemical craving like this, it'll come in a wave. At certain points in the rebooting process, they might last a little bit longer, but generally it's like, 15 minutes, 20 minutes. At the worst days, it might last for an hour or two. But if you get through those periods, it doesn't just keep going. Okay. So like a sign that you're dealing with a chemical, raw, just purely chemical craving is that it's going to be relatively short, and it's not going to just keep, pounding on you. And the answer for that is just know why you're quitting. Just decide that, hey, this is worth it. And then also see that discomfort as the addiction leaving your body, right? And reframing that discomfort is really key, because people think, oh, well, if it's painful, it's always going to suck and it has to feel bad. Not necessarily. Like you think about people who are into lifting weights, all right? Like you can go to the gym and you can, do a heavy set of squats or deadlifts. That's not comfortable, okay? That hurts. But like people love working out. People love squatting. People love deadlifting. They can, Arnold in his famous Pumping Iron documentary, he loved the pump, right? Like he's like, it feels like I'm coming, right? Like he was obsessed with that feeling. And it wasn't necessarily comfortable, okay? But the story he was telling about is like, oh, this is the feeling of me getting stronger. This is the feeling of me reaching my, excuse me, this is the feeling of me reaching my goals. And so that's the kind of mentality we want to apply to the chemical part. It's just, we can't get around that discomfort. So we frame it as something good. We frame it as the addiction leaving us. And as long as we got proper motivations for why, like why do we want to quit? Because it's going to help us in XYZ way. It's going to help us live in alignment with God. It's going to help us be more productive. It's going to improve our relationships. It's going to improve our sexual health, all these kinds of things. Okay. So that's the chemical side. But what you're talking about here makes me think that there's something deeper, okay? Because the other side of a craving comes from emotional triggers, where we have some kind of underlying negative emotion like boredom, stress, insecurity, loneliness, anxiety, whatever, okay? Like something like that is coming up. And then our brain is so used to medicating that feeling of negative emotion with porn, is that like we don't even feel often that underlying thing. We just feel the desire to use porn because we've just trained our brain, like where it's like, oh, anytime I feel lonely, I use porn. So what'll happen if you do that over years, you don't even feel the loneliness anymore. You just feel, oh, I'm just so horny. Oh, I just need to use porn. I just want porn so bad. But if you were to push past that in your awareness, you'd realize, oh, I'm actually lonely. And so in order to deal with those kind of cravings, we have to address the root desire that's going on, like the root emotion. And if you don't, these are the kinds of cravings that will just persist. Okay, these are the ones that'll just seem like they're lasting for forever. And this is what I think that you're probably dealing with, because you say, I can resist the urges for even days or weeks, but eventually they're always just there, right? Like The idea, if the cravings just keep sitting there on top of you, like in your chest, in your body, that makes me think you're dealing with the deeper emotional stuff. Now, let me get into the next part of your question, because I think it's in some ways like you trying to preempt that response. You said, I heard people say, make your life more interesting so you don't want to escape it. But that's not always realistic. Life isn't always exciting. And I think the problem is that I just cannot learn how to tolerate discomfort in the long term. What I say is you got to create a life that you don't want to escape from. That's the fundamental crux of eliminating any kind of escapism behavior. All right. And I think that's true. But you are also right that you can't always just make your life wonderful. Sometimes there are going to be fundamental challenges. If there's things you can't just snap your fingers and fix, what can you do to start addressing these underlying issues? Well, it's two sides to this. All right. First, you have to make practical changes to your biggest pain points. So if you look at your life, what are the biggest pain points? Okay. Maybe you can't completely remove them. Maybe you can't make them like completely inverse them and turn those into sources of pleasure. Like maybe, if you're lonely and you got no social connections, you can't just jump to a thriving social life, right? But there are probably things that you can do to mitigate it, make it hurt less. All right. So think about it kind of like in a first aid sense, where it's like, what are you going to do if you're a medic and you arrive on the scene and you got someone injured? First thing you're going to do is what? Stop the bleeding. If they're bleeding out of their neck, that's the number one thing you're probably going to want to try and stop. And so we got to go to the biggest pain and feel like, and ask ourselves, what can we do to make this hurt less? And whatever practical changes those are, if it's loneliness you're dealing with, well, maybe start calling some friends. Okay. Maybe, even listening to podcasts, maybe, sometimes it's in some cases talking to yourself while you set up those social connections. All right. Just start moving in the right direction, take away the sting. And also you're going to want to make sure that you're not making things worse, obviously. Right. So if there are certain things that you do like that make things worse, stop doing those things, right? Don't just isolate further. Don't push people away if loneliness is the issue. If you're stressed and anxious and that's your big issue, well, stop thinking the thoughts, stop doing all the stuff in your head that is making you terrified. There's practical stuff in the world we want to change to make our life better, but then a lot of times it's changing our internal environment, our mental environment. Like what are the things that we're doing in our head that are making our life worse, making us want to escape? For a lot of guys, you got to stop being such a dick to yourself. Stop being so hard on yourself. Stop being so ruthless in your self-talk, these sorts of things. And if you can do this, if you can release that pressure that's, making you want to run away, or at least make it less, that'll help you get through these cravings. And if you like in the Frontline Man program, we're constantly building our whole systems about how do we keep leveling up your life? How do we go from something that you do want to escape from and you are escaping from on some level to something that you want to be fully, absolutely present in? And yeah, there's a gap there. There's a process there. But as long as we attack the biggest stuff first, then we can start, rolling into the other pieces. There's another part of your question here. Let's see what it says. It's like, I've also read The Easy Peasy Way to Quit Porn, and it really helped while I was reading it, but I felt like it truly internalized the message at the moment. But after I finished, it was hard to keep that mindset going. I couldn't keep repeating those same words to myself with the same effect, and eventually the impact faded. Like the book had run out of power once I'd already absorbed what it had to say. Yeah, I'm not super familiar with that method. I am semi-familiar with it. I know there's like one for smoking, the easy peasy way to quit smoking, and all this other kind of stuff. And from what I understand, it's pretty much just technically speaking, like a hypnotic script. It's a way to kind of like, hypnotize yourself to follow the suggestion of I'm going to quit this thing. And the effectiveness that it has on you is literally it's as effective as you are hypnotizable, as you are suggestible. That would be like the technical term in the hypnotist sphere. It's like, how susceptible are you to outside suggestion? And if you're someone who is not hyper suggestible, like there's something like, I don't know, I could look it up the exact stats. Some people are very, very susceptible. These are the people that like a stage hypnotist could bring on the stage and they get them like clucking like a chicken or doing crazy stuff. Other people that just doesn't work for. So if you're not that kind of person, you got to do it the real way, where you're actually solving these internal things. And a better method for someone like that who can't just rely upon one single script from a book to change their behavior is what I would recommend is to use the Metascript method. And you can get that guide by clicking the link in the description. It's a method of journaling where you're organically and creatively programming your mind every single day to overcome cravings in the way that you need it that day. This far and away has offered the best results I've seen for anyone who's trying to overcome cravings. It's, very simple, only takes a few minutes, and you will literally pre-program your mind so that your autopilot in the moments that you're triggered and filled with cravings will automatically pick the right things. It'll automatically think the right thoughts and have you take the right actions to overcome your cravings. Obviously, we want this to operate within a full system, a holistic approach, but anyone who can learn the technique is going to start seeing major results. So you just click the link in the description if you want to learn that technique. I think it would really help you out. All right, that's what I have for you guys today. Hopefully you found this useful. Subscribe, and make sure you send your questions to podcast@frontlineman.com. And if I think it would make a good discussion, I'll answer it here. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one. Booyah.